Hey everyone, it's Kleptosomniac here. I am putting this video together for a viewer that asked about comboing attacks together in PvP and how you should do that, or the different playstyles associated with that and whatever. Ooh, line splits. In this video I'm going to be covering the different types of attacks and how you can chain them together for some decent DPS output or what you should do in a fight. And if you're a more experienced player of this game, feel free to watch this and tell me if I'm explaining it wrong, because if you don't get the basics right, it's kind of overwhelming when you first start playing. You get that adrenaline rush in a fight, and if things turn sour, your first instinct is to run. And that was a big deal I had, especially with playing the Nightblade as my first class. So yeah, I'm just going to be covering the basics in here and what you should be doing. And I'm going to show just a couple of clips of how to do what I'm going to be explaining. So there are different kinds of skills. There are buffs, which would be things that change your stats or give you resistances, more damage. There are heals, which are pretty self-explanatory. They heal you. And there's things I like to call utility, which would be like Shadowy Disguise. To me is a utility skill that lets you get invisible. You can call it an evasion skill. There's like Blink for the sword and stuff like that. And then there are your DPS attacks, which there are different kinds of those too. There's your spammable ones, which are you're just hitting them to deal damage. You're not really doing anything other than dealing damage with them. There are gap closers, which get you from point A to point B, and point B being the target. And then there's an execution, which you should use to kill them pretty much. Pretty self-explanatory. And then there's crowd control. I don't know if I covered that. There's crowd control things like fear or stunning them, knocking them down. This skill knocks them down. And then there's what I call a utility crowd control skill. Like there's talons on the Dragonknight, which will hold people in place with a snare. So there's snares and immobilizations, things like that. So I don't know if I did a very good job explaining that. You just have to play around with reading the tooltips, turn your advanced tooltips on in the options screen, and just read and see what you like best for the different kind of gap closers, the spammables, your executions, yada yada, buffs and stuff. So when I first start a fight, this is what I do for my rotation. With all my buffs active, so I'll have my Major Brutality, which is your weapon damage. I've got, I think it's called Minor Berserk or something, 8% extra damage. Then you have a dodge chance buff right there. I don't really use a heal when I enter a fight anymore since it pulls you out of stealth. But I start from stealth, so with the build I'm currently using, which is the same one I use in my Khajiit, I just threw this together to help explain a little better. I do what first is called an opener. Now, if you don't have any ranged abilities, such as my Dragonknight, when I don't use a bow, I don't have any ranged abilities except for the stun with the shield, which is, to me, is still a gap closer. So anyway, my opener would be a heavy attack with my bow. And then I would match that with my poison injection. So I would just heavy attack and just tap poison injection, and I don't even have to release the heavy attack. It'll just immediately, they'll both go at the same time. So once I do that, I would use a gap closing skill, which currently for the Nightblade would be ambush. And after I use that, immediately when I press my ambush button, which to me is B on my Xbox, so I'd press B, and then I would hold down the attack button. So the reason I do that is whenever the ambush connects, I flash through the air. Some other gap closers, you'll actually slide across the screen. So I would press the ambush button, and I would hold the attack button, and whenever the ambush connects, I would release the attack button, and you should, if done properly, your ambush will hit, and then a light attack will hit after that. So if you have the enchantment on your weapon that increases your weapon damage, it'll proc that. I currently don't on this weapon right here. So, ambush in after I use my opener with the light attack, and then I'd go to my spammable, which would be surprise attack on my Nightblade. So, like I said, for each different class, there's different spammables, gap closers, etc., and I'll be showing those just briefly. This is the only one I'm going to really explain it on, and the rest I'm just going to go over the names and tell you that this is a gap closer and when you should use it, type of thing. So back to my rotation. Heavy attack from stealth with bow. Tap the poison injection, switch bars, ambush in there, and hold the attack button. When the ambush connects, release it. And then I would press Y to use a surprise attack. And immediately when I press Y, I would press the attack button again. So the surprise attack would hit, and then another attack would hit just from my basic weapon. And if they're about to die, I would go in with my execute. Now, There's a thing called animation canceling, and I'm not going to go into that in this video because that's too much to throw on to you if you're just learning about chaining attacks. So if you're interested in that, I'll tell you about it, but I don't think I'll make a video on it because a lot of people kind of tell you you're not. A lot of people call it cheating. I'm not really sure why, but anyway. So execute. Now, if I'm in there with my ambush and then my spammable surprise attack, and they're not down in health yet, you can use your ultimate, whichever one you have. I have mine that stuns, so if you don't have an ultimate that stuns, you can use a crowd control ability. That'll stop them from healing themselves or whatever they're doing if they're hitting you back. It'll just get them off of you for a couple of seconds. You can go in and you can heal or continue the fight, whatever you're doing. So, like I said, if the execution stuff doesn't work, which normally it'll wipe someone out if I catch them off guard, you crowd control them, and then just if they'll break free, usually they'll dodge roll. You'll get used to once you fight someone for like their first rotation, you've got their character down. They're not going to come at you with anything crazy except for their ultimate because you can't tell what that is immediately. Anyway, that's too much information. So fearing them, which is the equivalent to my crowd control ability, they'll break free, usually dodge roll. So if I haven't used my ultimate yet, I will wait until they dodge roll after that break free. Like 9 out of 10 times, every time someone breaks free, they dodge roll, which is really handy because it runs them out of stamina faster. But anyway, they'll break free, and then they'll dodge roll, and then I'll hit them with my ultimate, just so I don't miss. The only thing that can affect that ultimate hit is if they tap block and block it, or if they have the evasion thing up, which I did for the 20% dodge chance, and then it can just randomly dodge, which is incredibly annoying. But anyway, hit him with the ultimate, and then back to the spammable and killer's blade, blah blah blah. Unless they're too far away whenever they dodge roll, then I will do my ambush, back to the press the ambush and the heavy attack button, etc. So I've got some reds right outside of the keep here somewhere, I think. So I'm just going to go jump on one and show you the opening heavy attack with my bow, with the poison injection, and then my bar swap and my ambush for the gap closer with the light attack, and then the spammable surprise attack hit with another light attack, and then usually my execute or my ultimate, then my execute, whichever way it happens. So we'll see what we can find. Alright, so the red and I just made eye contact before we both went stealth, so we'll see how this goes. There he is. Opener, gap closer. I have an ultimate on him already. Yep, and execute. Okay, so that was a little quick because other people jumped in, but what I did was my opener, which stunned him from stealth, and then I ambushed in with the light attack afterwards, and then I just immediately hit my ultimate and execute because he was at low health. So that was a pretty bad example because it went so quickly. Hold on, I think there's someone else here. Yep, alright, cool. I'll see how it goes again. Again with the opener, gap, yeah, there we go. Stun, heavy attack, and execute. Or no execute. But yeah, once you get the basics down of what you need to do with opening it with an ability, like I said, if you don't have a ranged ability on your class, that's fine. You can use your gap closer as your opener. Just make sure you're buffed up. And then after you open with, if you already use your gap closer, then anyway, backing up, that's redundant. Opener, then your gap closer, then a spammable, but make sure you have light attacks in there. And I'm going to show it on the Templar next, because that's another class ability. And then I have a Dragonknight I'm going to show it on, because Dragonknight doesn't have a gap closer unless you're pulling the enemy to you, which I don't really like that. So that's a two-hand ability. I don't know what the unmorph it's called, but I use crit rush for the decent bonus damage with distance traveled. So anyway, that was Nightblade. Like I said, it's kind of a bad example because Nightblades do way too much damage, and you drop them before you can get a full rotation in normally. On to a different class. Alright, so that brings me to my Templar. And I'm picking him first because I don't have any ranged physical abilities. I forgot to mention that using a spell in stealth, a ranged spell, I should say, pulls you out of stealth so you don't get that stun bonus. Like, it's not going to stun them. like my bow, a heavy attack from a bow. If the enemy is if you're flanking them or their back is turned to you, it will stun them. But if they were facing you, like that character was the last person I just killed, they were facing me, so my heavy attack wasn't a stun, but my ultimate was. So anyway, since I lack a physical ability, the stun from crouch is not applicable. And my opener will be my buff. Since I'm using a Magicka Templar, I like to have Structured Entropy going for the Major Sorcery buff, which is the equivalent of Rally for a mage. Except Rally you can use out of battle, and this one you can't. You have to hit somebody with it. So my opener, unfortunately, will pull me right into the fight. So I open with Structured Entropy, give me that buff, and then my actual gap closer is Toppling Charge. But since this is kind of difficult to explain, you can set your character up to your liking, and my liking is to have damage over times on. So my opening actually with my Templar, I would use Structured Entropy, and then I would hit him with Vampire's Bane because it is a ranged attack. And wow, it is a ranged attack. And normally if I use Structured Entropy, I would say like 40% of the time people don't notice if they're already fighting something. So if I use Vampire's Bane, I mean, they're going to notice there's going to be a fireball flying at them. So if I hit him with that, then it's time for my gap closer. Now, I have dual wield swords on this guy, and one of them does have the weapon and spell damage glyph on it. So I will hit with my Toppling Charge, and this ability stuns too. So I mean, it's kind of handy because it pulls you to them and it knocks them down. So I will go in with my Toppling Charge, and with the ambush, same thing with on the Nightblade. I will hit the Toppling Charge button, which is also B. I like to keep my gap closures on the same button. So I'll hit B and then hold down my attack button again. So once I hit him with the Toppling Charge, I'll release the attack button. My sword will swing and it'll hit him, and it'll give me that spell damage buff from my weapon glyph. And then it's on to my spammable, which is Puncturing Sweeps on this guy. So after my gap closer with that light attack, I just hit the X button repeatedly, puncturing sweeps, unless I'm getting overwhelmed, and then I've got to buff myself up and heal and stuff. I'll swap bars. That's more of a situational thing though. So puncturing sweeps in there. Once they get low health, I use my execute, Radiant Oppression, which is decent amount of damage. But this ability is a channel ability, so you channel times 2.9 seconds. So if someone gets a chance and walks up and interrupts you like you would on a PvE NPC, same thing happens. It knocks you back, and it's kind of like a stun thing. So it is an interruptible ability, so you might want to be careful using it. Make sure you're at range from all the enemies and the person you're trying to kill. They can dodge roll, and it'll still hit them. They can hold block. I don't know if it does the full amount of damage. I don't think it does. I think it does do the reduced. So yeah, they can hold block, but they can't really avoid it unless it's Nightblade and they stealth, or they walk up and interrupt you. So I really like this as an execute. It's crazy damage if you just read the tooltip right there. 330% additional damage and up to 20% damage on top of that, within proportion to my current Magicka. Like if I have low Magicka, I don't get that bonus. So my ultimate on my Templar, I don't have Meteor yet, or I'd be using Meteor because it's a stun and it's got some decent damage to it. Group stun as well, and then it's got a dot. I would be using that if I have it, but I don't. So I use a defensive type of ultimate on him, and like I said, that's more of a situational thing. If I'm swarmed, it reduces your damage by 15% and up to 4% for each enemy hit. So again, this is a ranged type okay, it's got a little bit of melee spammable in there. So open with Structured Entropy, and then throw a fireball at him. Charge right in there, hit him with that light attack right as soon as I press the gap closer. And then spammable Puncturing Sweeps until low health, and then my execute. Now if things go sour, I'll swap weapons and buff myself up, purify any damage I have, heal myself with one of my heals, and then that's another buff. It just reflects spells. I'll hit him with a stun again. So Piercing Javelin is a stun. Crowd control, I should say. There is another ability I like to use. It's the bottom ability of the one-hand tree Reverberating Bash. I don't have it unlocked on this guy yet. So yeah, this is where my Meteor would go. buff up, knock him down, jump right back in. If I need to buff up again with Structured Entropy, I will. Throw another fireball, gap closer, spam, execute. Basically the same thing. So I'm going to go see if I can find someone real quick, and I'll show you guys the Templar. Maybe. There we go. Alright, Nightblade time. Well, I wouldn't really call that fair. Or that. I kind of jumped on that dude while he was in the middle of a fight, so I didn't really get to show the full rotation there. But I buffed up, kind of hit him with the entropy. Then the fireball thing, and kind of went from there. That was a bad example of the rotation, but still the same thing. Your buffs and then your opener, gap closer, spammable, and your execution. So that's the only people I could find in this amount of time. I've been looking. Wow, I got a lot of stones from those guys. I've been looking for what, 16 minutes? Yeah. So I'm gonna call that one the example of the Templar. So the only real change was the ability is a stun. The gap closer is a stun. You still have your execution and all that stuff. So I'm gonna move on to the Dragonknight now. Protect these stones. There's the defensive tick. Alright, I'm out of here. Okay, so now I'm here on the Dragonknight, and lots of buffs. Still have that evasion, major physical resistance and spell resistance. I don't remember what it's called right now. Alright, anyway, so I got those buffs, and then I have the rally for the weapon damage. Now, the gap closer, skills, becomes critical rush. So that'll have to, well, I have a bow on right now, so I'll still do the heavy attack poison injection. Yeah, heavy attack poison injection with the bow, but normally I use one-handed shield, so my opener will be my crit rush in that case. Anyway, so crit rush in there, and then same thing there, press B, again that's my gap closer, and then the attack button. Once that releases, I'll hit Venomous Claw. Now, in place of a spammable, I have a dot. That throws a pretty decent damage over time on there. And then my crowd control is Dizzying Swing, which you can also use it as a spammable, but I mean, I don't really like doing that. It's easily dodgeable or blockable. As long as you can get one hit in there and stun them, you can usually finish them off from there. Anyway, so then I have Reverse Slice as my execution. I just picked this one now over Executioner, which is the other morph. The only difference is that one does 330% more damage instead of just 300%. So this one splits the damage. 71% goes to nearby targets. So you can use your Dawnbreaker of Smiting from the Fighter Skill tree. That is a stun as well as really good damage. And then you can just start spamming your Reverse Slice, and it'll hit everyone in the same zone. Normally take a few people out there. So I'll buff up the heavy attack poison injection thing, jump in with my gap closer with the light attack in there, hit Venomous Claw, and then just start hitting Dizzying Swing until it connects. And then normally as soon as that hits, okay, so I'll press Dizzying Swing button. I skipped a step. Press the Dizzying Swing and start charging a heavy attack. Same thing with the gap closer or whatever. So you can also do that with Critical Rush if they're at about 50% health. Before you crit rush in there, you can crit rush and charge a heavy attack and release that, and then just start hitting Reverse Slice your execution again. So the difference with the Dragonknight compared to the Nightblade and the Templar is that the Dragonknight's gap closer is this. It pulls them to you, and then the morph pulls you to them. And I don't really like that ability as much as I do crit rush as a gap closer, so I will use that instead. I think that's the only gap closer. Yeah. Alright. So, like I said, yeah. opener, if I don't have my bow on, will be crit rush, then the attack, and go over to the dot. Yeah, you get the basic idea. Your rotation wants to be an opening attack, and then I feel like I've said this a million times, but it's really important to get used to chain your attacks together smoothly to take someone out as fast as possible. Opener, gap closer, 2 your spammable. If you need your ultimate, throw it in there. If you need crowd control, throw that in there too. I do on this Dragonknight. I don't think it puts out enough damage. I only have like 3,700. I don't know what damage is actually. Yeah, about 3,700. I don't think this is yellow owned campaign. It might be. I haven't been on it in a while. Oh, nope. It's not. Alright, so it would be higher if it was yellow. Anyway, so I do rely on the crowd control in there a little bit. So I'm going to go find someone and show you the Dragonknight version of the combo kill attack. Oh, okay. Got some activity. With the Dragonknight, the only buff that pulls you out of stealth is your green dragon blood, coagulating blood, whichever one you go with. Makes you can see your heartbeat thing. Aw, missed out. Oh, maybe not. So yeah, I kind of. Whoop! Oh, that set hurts. Oh. Well, that was a bad example, so I'll find someone else. No. My rune. My rune. Nope, no Kuta. Me and you? Me and you? Yep. Yay! Fall damage killed him. Alright. So that wasn't a very good example either. I haven't been able to show real... So I used a Dragon Leap as my gap closer because I knew it was going to stun him and I felt like he was going to run around, and he did. So... I didn't use my bow either. I'm used to just crit rushing in. So yeah, crit rush is gap closer, spammable. You can throw. What is a good spammable for Dragonknight? I don't know. I just like putting that dot on there because if you have it on there long enough, it really does a lot of damage. Oh, you can use a dizzying swing or wrecking blow as a spammable if you want. Like I said, whatever skills you want to throw together. I just use dizzying swing as a crowd control. That's about it. Other than that, other than Dragon Leap right now. That's the only crowd control abilities I have and use stun wise. Now when I'm tank setup, I use the talons and everything. So I'll try to find someone else on here to show a better rotation. Because the Dragonknight's pretty tricky because it's a very versatile class, just like the Magic and Nightblade. But oh, there's a couple blues. Get my buffs going. Yeah, so I use this character as a tank more than I do a DPS. Didn't really do much of that guy. Running already? Dodge roll. Wow, that was a weird oh, good lord. That's a big group. I'm out. Oh, we got a big group too. Man, I can't rotate the screen. It's so laggy. Good lord. Alright, so yeah, you're gonna just watch me die. So you got the basics idea of throwing together attacks. You just want to make sure you get a decent gap closer, and holy cow, I'm so laggy. Alright, didn't last very long. Alright, yeah, gap closer, spammable, make sure you have an opening if you use range attacks. If you're match gut build, use your structured interpre so you can buff up before you hit him with anything to get extra damage. Just get used to using light attacks with every attack, or every gap closer, spammable, or whatever you're going to use. Just make sure you get used to, or in the habit of doing that. And then if you learn about animation canceling, that's normally done by just tapping block. Let's see if I can do it. Yeah, with vigor, I just tap block to stop the animation. Or you can, oh, that's not the right button. Swap weapons? Yeah, you can swap weapons and do it too, like in the middle of a fight. Like I said, that's a little overwhelming at first, so just get your basics down. And with the sword, like I said, you've got, I don't have one, you got the, I don't know what it's called, so I'm going to call it Blink. The little teleport thing. That is a stun, or it could be used as a gap closer. But like I said, I haven't said yet. Sorks normally, unless you're going stamina, you're going to be using ranged spells. So Blink would be more of a get away from the fight, or just as a crowd control. So you set up your character with these basics of a gap closer, spammable, execution, and just use those attacks in some sort of order. Make sure you keep your buffs up and everything like that. You'll be alright. So I think I covered most things. Oh, crowd control is really important. You'll learn the specific time it takes. I can't remember if it's 5 seconds or 8 seconds, or if either one of those is correct. That once they use break free, your enemy will be immune to crowd control for either 5 seconds or 8 seconds. I don't remember. So you can set your character up according to your playstyle using those basics. So as long as you're comfortable doing what you're doing, and you're killing people and having fun, that's really all that matters. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something from this. So I'll see you guys next time. And good luck with putting your builds together and wrecking people.